master of the 300-mile-per-hour barrier, Kenny Bernstein, and young Corey McClenathan. Each with the dream of the Winston Top Fuel Championship. Car rookie Cruz Pedregon has won the last 5 events in the series and looks to be the funny car champion. But two-time champ John Force has vowed to defend his title to the bitter end, burning it to the ground if necessary. These men take center stage as the NHRA season concludes. It's a beautiful autumn afternoon in Southern California as we're alongside the San Gabriel Mountains for the final event of the National Hot Rod Association season. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 28th annual Winston Finals. I'm Joel Myers, and today we're at the LA County Fairgrounds in Pomona, California. Believe it or not, after 17 races this year, we get ready today for the 18th and final event. Only 54 points separated the top 2 drivers in the top fuel division coming in. Well, the unbelievable has already occurred. And with more on that story, let's head over to Steve Evans.
Joel, in qualifying, Kenny Bernstein ended up 2 positions ahead of Joe Amato and earned 4 bonus points. Exactly what he wanted, because that narrowed the deficit to exactly 50 points. But then in round 1 this morning, Kenny Bernstein lined up alongside Danielle DePorter. And for reasons nobody can explain, Kenny has never had good luck in the opening stanza against female drivers. He didn't here today. A floor problem eliminated Bernstein, and immediately back in the lanes, the Amato crew started their celebration. Kenny Bernstein, well, you can just imagine how he felt.
It's a shame. One of those things, you know.
No one will ever forget the 300-mile-an-hour year you've had, though.
Well, we appreciate that. It's a great honor for the team and for our people to accomplish that. You know, we're just, you know, Joe Amato, that whole group, this group out here runs really hard, and it's tough to keep up with them all the time. And, you know, obviously it's been 2 years in a row we've gone down to the wire here, but maybe next year will be our year. We're just, we're glad it's over with, actually, to be honest about it.
See 93. After Amato beat Tony Pedregon in round 1, the celebration at the far end gained more steam.
Oh, the good morning was shining on it.
I must tell you, though, there is one driver who can still spoil the Joe show. He is local favorite Corey McClenathan. Now, should Joe lose in the second round coming up in just a few minutes, and Corey Mack go on to win the entire event and set an all-time national record, he'll be the champ. Hey, weirder things have happened in drag racing, believe me. Don Garlitz has the similar story in Funny Car.
Well, Steve, John Force came into the Winston Finals the decided underdog against Cruz Pedregon. By his own admission, he said, I need a miracle to pull this one off. Well, he didn't get his miracle. In the first round of qualifying yesterday, the car left the line, the tires spun, the throttle hung wide open, the car made a violent turn, went over on its roof, slid down the drag strip, kissed the retaining wall, and continued to spin around, ended up in the lights upside down. John Force got out of the car. He wasn't hurt. His spirits were still very high. Steve spoke with him.
Hey, she left. We're trying to run a fairly good number, and throttle just, it smoked the tires and went to pellet, and the throttle hung wide open. It's just one of them things that happens. It's a different body on the car. We did run it at Phoenix. But we ain't out of this race. Cruz Pedregon's horseshoes are holding, obviously. But we got another car in the trailer. We can get back, fix this one maybe, mainly get back in the game for the fans, because that's why we're here. The money's dead. It's over unless we win this thing, and we're going to try.
Earlier this morning, coming into round 1, this is what had to happen. John Force had to win this race today. He had to set a new national record, and Cruz Pedregon has to lose in round 2. This did not happen. John Force lines up in the first round against Gary Bolger. The car leaves the line. Everything looks all right. And then mechanical problems set in. The blower belt comes off the car, and John loses. This makes Cruz Pedregon the funny car Winston champion. Well, Cruz, would you have believed 6 months ago that you would be sitting here the Winston funny car champion?
Absolutely not. We're the great team, and your expectations are high, but until it happens, you're still wondering.
Well, Cruz has already won 5 championships this year, and it's not over yet. Joel?
All right, Don, so now we continue with round number 2. As we've seen the stories that have been building over the last couple of days, round number 2 in the Top Fuel division. And as you can see, Joe Amato doesn't have to worry about Kenny Bernstein in the point standings anymore, but he still has to be concerned with Corey McClenathan.
Oh, absolutely. And Ed McCullough has won the last 3 out of 4 NHRA national events. He will not be a pushover here. Amato qualified number 4 at a 486, beat Tony Pedregon in round 1. McCullough qualified solidly number 5 at a 488, and he dispatched Tommy Johnson Jr. in the initial frame. All right, here we go. Ed McCullough in the near lane. Joe Amato in the far lane. How much horsepower? Well, let's see. 20 brand new Corvette automobiles combined wouldn't have as much horsepower as one of these cars. Well over 5,000. There's Amato. He needs some breathing room between himself and Corey Mack. They're away. It's a great race. Amato falls back. Ed McCullough wins it at 4.91 seconds. A big speed, 292 miles an hour. Joe Amato is out of competition at the Winston Finals, but is he yet the Winston champ?
We will find out as the day develops, as Joe Amato is knocked out in round number 2. We continue with the second round, and we get ready for the young man we were just talking about, Corey McClenathan from Anaheim, California, 29-year-old, going up against Don Prudhomme. And let's get an idea of the disappointment that has to be experienced right now as we head down to the end of the track and join Steve.
Joe Amato, you know what Corey McClenathan has to do to ruin your day. Is it possible?
Well, you never say never in motorsports, but it's so hot here, and he doesn't have any backup if they checked, so he has to make a record and have a backup, and that's going to be pretty hard in the heat. All I can hope, maybe the snake can take him out now, and then I won't have to worry about it.
Thanks, Jim.
That is yet to be determined. The snake, John Prudhomme, is going to be in the near lane. In the far lane, the young man from Anaheim, California, Corey McClenathan.
Well, even though Don Prudhomme has won 3 races this year, lately he hasn't had his usual venom, so Corey Mack may be in a very good position here. Prudhomme did not qualify all that well. McClenathan, on the other hand, qualified number 2 at a 4.84, and he took Robert Reel out of the game in round 1. Prudhomme qualified number 7. That's slow for him at a 4.94, and he got to Rance McDaniel. All right, here we go. Snake in the near lane. Corey McClenathan, far side. So far, every driver with lane choice has taken that far lane. Staged and ready. McClenathan needs to run in the low 480s to stay alive in the title chase. Can he beat the snake? Whoa, Prudhomme closes past, but Corey Mack wins in a ball of fire. Corey Mack has sacrificed an engine to beat Don Prudhomme with a 4.92 second elapsed time at only 277 miles an hour. Prudhomme is closing. Joe Amato waving to the fans. He feels he's won the Winston title. You heard what he said. He feels it's too hot for McClenathan to set a record, and blowing that engine will be a setback for Corey Mack.
Be right back to Pomona.
NBC's Sports World and
The Winston Finals, we continue on a spectacular fall day in Southern California.
And, Joel, you'll notice a lot of construction here, and that's because after years of a very tentative agreement with the LA County Fairplex, the NHRA just signed a 15-year lease and is investing $4.5 million to turn this facility into a drag racing stadium, including this magnificent tower with corporate suites, and over 34,000 permanent seats are being added. The drag racing community can't wait till the first weekend in February when it all debuts at the Winter Nationals. Here's Danielle DePorter. Joel, she's got to be on the high. She was part of this championship decision process, eliminating Bernstein round 1.
That was the biggest shock so far this weekend for the 20-year-old from Scottsdale, Arizona. She is going to go up against Doug Herbert.
Doug Herbert is in a backup car because just 2 weeks ago in Dallas, Texas, he flipped his primary car end for end, what the drag racers call a blowover. But this machine has performed very well. Qualified number 6 at a 4.90 second elapsed time. He sent Michigander Jack Ostrander home in round number 1. Now, Danielle DePorter qualified 14th. That's about average for her. We saw her, of course, beat Kenny Bernstein in round 1. But if she can beat Herbert here, Joel, she will move into the top 10 in points and is guaranteed an additional $10,000 in bonus cash. For this struggling team, that's a lot of money. Herbert's got her. No, he doesn't. In the last few feet, Herbert's engine goes away. Danielle DePorter wins it 497 to a 499. 284 to a 288. That's worth another look.
Let's go back to the starting line where the advantage was going in the direction of Doug Herbert.
It was. He had a very slight hole shot, as they call it, off the starting line. A little smoke off of Danielle's tires, and that is not conducive to a great elapsed time. All in all, Herbert appeared to be in control at half track, at three-quarter track. But Danielle, she just kept her foot solidly planted on that throttle. You see the oil coming out of Herbert's car. That's a drag race.
So Danielle DePorter moving on to the next round, just barely beating Doug Herbert. We continue, though, with the second round of the top fuels, and now it's veteran Eddie Hill going up against Gary Beck.
Here is Gary Beck in the near lane, just now accomplishing the tire heating burnout to not only put heat in the tires, but in the racetrack, clean off the racetrack. A lot of benefits to doing it. He's in a very unique car. It's the 4-cam McGee engine, totally different than anyone out here is using. All the rest of the power plants are conventional pushrod motors. Over in the far lane is a yellow car that Sports World viewers may well remember from 1989 when Eddie Hill performed a blow over it right here, completely over backwards. We never thought we'd see that car again. Well, here it is. And in qualifying, it recorded the quickest elapsed time in history at 4.77 seconds. A 5-year-old race car. Gary Beck, well, he qualified number 8 at a 494, beat Shelly Anderson in round number 1. He'd be happy with anything in the 4s here. Eddie Hill qualified number 1, obviously, with that 477, and beat Russ Collins. But as you know, Joel, he needs to run within 1% of the 477 to make that an official NHRA record. So Eddie Hill is looking for a 482 to make that back up good. Gary Beck, they are still evolving this McGee motor, still testing it, still trying to get it consistently into the 4s. As we said, it did qualify down at a 494, but in this day and age of drag racing, that's not real quick.
Oh, what a hole shot for Eddie Hill.
Well, you got it. Eddie Hill was just long gone. 4.85 seconds, 300 short of backing up the record, but a winner nonetheless. At 291 miles an hour, Gary Beck at 5 seconds flat.
So we are ready now for our top fuel semifinals. They will be coming up in just a few minutes. Eddie Hill taking on Ed McCullough. Hill will have the lane choice there with quicker ET. And in the other pair, Corey McClenathan from Southern California against Danielle DePorter. And McClenathan will have the lane choice. Well, while we've got a second, we head back to the pit area now as Ed McCullough continues with his preparations for his top fuel semifinal matchup with Eddie Hill. Eddie Hill, he's got to be elated. An opportunity for another championship. Let's check in with the 56-year-old now from Wichita Falls, Texas.
Eddie Hill having a great time with a 485. Heat of the day, that's excellent.
We are absolutely having fun. That's good for lane choice, and I love this lane. I don't ever turn over backwards in this lane, it doesn't seem like. And looking forward to being in the Final Four. Hope we can win this deal. Hope we can back up the record.
So Eddie Hill on his way to the semifinals. Thank you, Steve. As we move over to the funny car division now in our first matchup in round number 2 is Al Hoffman facing Gary Bolger.
Well, here you're on board with Hoffman. You can see the steering wheel trying to keep that car straight in that far lane. Little smoke creeps into the cockpit, but it's no big problem.
And as Al Hoffman gets ready to face Gary Bolger, Al currently, as you look at the points now, in third in the funny car standings. Cruz Pedregon has already wrapped up the season-long championship, overtaking John Force, who has dominated the division in recent years, but Al Hoffman, a very successful campaign again.
Al Hoffman has won 3 races this year. His crew chief, Tommy Anderson, was going to be crew chief of the year for making 168 almost trouble-free runs with a funny car. That's incredible. His competition, Gary Bolger, is the other side of the spectrum. He has never won an NHRA national event, but he is running quicker than he has in his life with a car that doesn't have all of the tricks and all of the computers. Doesn't need any kind of a computer. They just run this car by the seat of their pants as they did in the old days out in Chicago, Illinois. And no one is having more fun drag racing than Gary Bolger. And few are winning more than Al Hoffman. Hoffman qualified number 3, beat Quint Bazemore in round 1 with a sensational 5.15 second elapsed time. That's a number hard to contend with right now. It's a little hotter. I doubt that he can run that again, Joel.
Hoffman has the lane choice, and Hoffman on the far side. Hoffman pulls away easily early from Gary Bolger.
And indeed falls off a full 10th at 5.25, 286 miles an hour. And Gary Bolger, without the sophisticated clutches that Hoffman is running, smoked the tires and coasted on down the racetrack. So Al Hoffman goes to the Final Four.
Yeah, we continue in the funny car division. Round number 2. It's Cruz Pedregon has already won the season-long championship, going up against Tom Hoover.
And Cruz is the first to ever do it as a rookie in any of the pro classes. He has won 6 races this year, the last 5 in a row, equaling a mark set by Don Prudhomme back in the 70s. After round number 1, Cruz knew he had won the championship. But when I talked to him at the far end, well, he was still very much all business.
It's great, you know, but it's hard for me to get excited right now because, you know, we have a race to run here. But, you know, I've had a lot of sleepless nights, and I think it's finally going to come true. We're going to win the championship with this McDonald's car.
Now, Tom Hoover, who is about to face Cruz Pedregon in round number 2, he matched up with Gordon Mineo in round number 1. And let's take a look back now on that incredible problem for Gordon Mineo. You talk about big-time problems. Did he ever?
Oh, yeah, I've never seen this happen before. Watch the car in the far lane. Kaboom! You know what happened? He blew both rear tires simultaneously. Occasionally, we'll see one tire blow and do a little body damage, but nothing like what we saw here at Pomona in round 1. I talked to a shock driver. What started out as a coupe is now a roadster.
You got that right. I don't know what happened. I've never seen anything like that in all my life.
What do you think happened?
I have no idea, my friend. Those tires only had 5 runs on them or 4 runs. There's nothing wrong with this car. I mean, I don't understand this.
Well, 93 has got to be better.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it will.
So Gordon Mineo fortunate to come out of that one unscathed. And now Tom Hoover, who won that matchup, moves on to his round 2 confrontation with Cruz Pedregon.
Pedregon not only is the champion, he's the national record holder at 5.07 seconds. Cruz has had a dream year for any driver, veteran or rookie. He's against Tom Hoover. Hoover's fading. Hoover comes back. It's Pedregon, but barely at 5.26, 274 miles an hour. He might have shut it off a little early. Almost got bit.
Be right back to continue from Pomona, California. Danielle Porter, she will be going up against Corey Mack. Corey McLennan and in his pit area right now. Let's check in with Big Daddy Don Garlitz.
Well, guys, as we suspected, there is an engine change going on in the Corey Mack pit. And as you well know, Corey Mack is the last car remaining that has a shot at the Winston Championship. Now, he has to set the ET 1% backup in this next round and then go on and set the record in the next round and win the race. Now, with this engine change going on like it is and all the activity in this pit, in my opinion, that is a very unlikely scenario.
So it's going to be a difficult one for Corey McLennan to be able to overtake Joe Amato for the season-long championship in the top fuels. We head over to funny cars once again. We continue with round number 2. Chuck Etchels, the veteran, and Jim Epler.
You know, Joe, the last time we were here at Pomona, it was that man, Jim Epler, in the funny car winter circle. He won the Winter Nationals, led the points for a couple of races, and then faded very fast as Forrest and Pedregon took over. Etchels won in New Jersey here on NBC, and later on this same season in Denver, Colorado. Now, Epler qualified number 10 at a 5.23. He hasn't been around for a few races. That's very good. Beat Dale Foley round 1. Etchels qualified, boy, he thundered number 2 at a 5.13 and beat Mark Oswald in round 1. Etchels is the car to watch. He ran quicker in the preceding round. That's why he has lane choice. As so many have, he takes that left or far side. Maynard Yates, his crew chief, walks away from that car. Maynard has put cars in the winner's circle here before. Bruce Larson a few years back. Jim Epler from the Pacific Northwest. Chuck Etchels, Putnam, Connecticut, here on the starting line in Pomona, California. A good start. Both crew chiefs have the clutches just right. Epler starts to lose control. It is Etchels at 5.20, 276 miles an hour. He will go to the final 4 of the Fuel Coupe.
Now we get ready now for another matchup in round number 2 of the funny cars. It's Freddie Neely taking on Kenji Okazaki.
And Atlanta's Freddie Neely is the #1 qualifier with a brilliant 5.11 in a car that we saw win here back in 1990, driven by Casey Spurlock, and with the same crew chief today, Ronnie Swearingen.
And just a couple of weeks ago at the Cheap Nationals in Ennis, Texas, Neely with his fastest ET ever. Another one who's been a very hot driver. He's down to the far end right now with Steve. Let's join Steve and Chuck Etchels.
It's a long ways from Connecticut to California, but right now, Chuck, you're glad you made the trip.
Oh, Steve, we sure are. I mean, you know, it's the end of the year. We want to win this race bad. I mean, we're hungry. That McDonald's car's beat us up the last few races, and we're tired of them.
A 5:20 low ET of the round so far.
Well, Maynard and the crew guys are doing the job.
I'll say.
So we are ready as Freddie Neely is backing into position for his matchup with Okazaki.
And Kenji Okazaki is really an interesting guy. He rents this car from Big Jim Dunn. You saw standing there looking over the operation. He has run very, very well. Is getting quicker all the time. And his business is he sells American muscle cars in Tokyo, and he can't import enough of them. Freddie Neely, he stumbled around in the sport with his own car for a long time. Never really hit it out of the ballpark until he got a hold of this machine. And it is first rate and could win this entire event, Joel.
He's a big favorite coming into this matchup in round number 2 of the funny cars.
Ooh, Kenji left first, but suddenly something went wrong. Freddie Neely streaks away. Oh, he equals Etchels' time of 5:20 at 268 miles an hour, and that indicates that he shut off early. That car can run close to 290.
So we have our pairings now for the funny cars semifinals. Freddie Neely going up against Cruz Pedregon. Neely will have the lane choice there. And in the other pair, it'll be Chuck Etchels, a couple of veterans, and Al Hoffman. Etchels will have the lane choice there. And before we head back to the track, we move to the pit area now as Eddie Hill continues discussions with his crew chief, Fuzzy Carter, who you're looking at right now. They need that backup so they can come up with possibly the quickest time in the history of the sport. He's getting ready for his Top Fuel semifinal with Ed McCullough. Let's head to the far end of the track, though, and find out how it went for Freddie Neely.
On a rail, 5:20.
5:20. That's what we're hoping for, Steve. Maybe a 19 or a 20 just to get by the round to get to the semifinals. You know, we've had this second round jinx. Can't get by the second round. But Ronnie said, you know, we're going to get by this time, try to win this race.
It would be your first ever.
It'd be my first ever, and I'd be proud for Dick Brown. He's the one that put us here. He's the man I got to thank.
Here's your neck color back you threw at me.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, guys.
Getting a little physical at the far end of the track. We move over to the semifinals now in the Pro Stocks. A couple of veterans, Jerry Ekman and Don Beverly.
You bet, and a couple of spectacular race cars. That's an Oldsmobile. That's a Pontiac. And NHRA is very strict regarding body modifications so they look like their production counterpart. But after that, buddy, mechanically, you can do anything you want. 500 cubic inch engine limit. They make about 1,200 horsepower. They are incredible machines to drive. 5-speed transmissions. You let up the clutch like you do in a normal street car. Don Beverly, he has won 2 national events this year. It's a team car to the Pro Stock champ, Warren Johnson, capable of winning anywhere. Jerry Ekman, he started off like a ball of fire, winning the Winter Nationals. He won 3 races right off the bat in the 92 season, only to fade. And when he lost the handle, he lost it completely. But starting to kind of resurrect himself back here on his home track in Pomona, California. Now they lead at very high RPM with these cars. You wonder how the engines can even stand the strain. Listen. Pro Stock is underway. This is the semifinal round. Whoa, they run identical laps. Times of 7:23, but Ekman is there first because Ekman left first. 190 miles an hour for the winner. A faster 191 for the loser, Beverly.
And the difference in this race, what you're looking at right now, the very beginning, where the whole shot was the difference for Jerry Ekman. In fact, the only difference in the race in the ET time was 5,000 of a second. So Jerry Ekman moves on to the finals in the Pro Stock division. As we continue with the Winston finals, we head down to the far end and join Jerry with Steve Evans.
Well, darn, if they just had all the races at Pomona, you might be the world champ.
You know, I'd say that again. It's this track's really been kind to us, and it's good for us for our team because we're originally based out of here and we got a lot of fans and we love it here.
That would have been a heck of a drag race, except you had a 300th advantage and probably never saw him.
Yeah, they always told me you got to take as much as you can on the starting line because you might have to give some back. So tried to do that.
Final round bound.
Good job.
So Jerry Ekman has one spot in the finals of the Pro Stocks. When we come back, we will find out who his opponent will be. We'll have the other Pro Stock semifinal between Warren Johnson and Bob Glidden. A few minutes ago, as Warren Johnson accepted the congratulations of the crowd here in Southern California on already winning the Winston Pro Stock season-long championship this year. He has already picked up 7 victories, including the race you saw right here on NBC earlier this year, the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis. And now Warren Johnson ready for his Pro Stock semifinal, going up against Bob Glidden.
This will have even this rather blasé Southern California crowd at their feet, Joel Meyer. Bob Glidden and Warren Johnson in many ways today are Pro Stock. Glidden, the 10-time champion, over on the far side of the racetrack in his Ford Pro. In the Oldsmobile Cutlass, opposite him will be, as you said, Warren Johnson. And you talk about close. They come into this run 5,000ths of a second apart. In qualifying, Bob Glidden, Whiteland, Indiana, a 7.183. Warren Johnson of Duluth, Georgia, a 7.183. Glidden was credited as the quicker qualifier because he had a better speed, 193 miles an hour, and speed always is the tiebreaker. So Warren Johnson, already the Winston champion. He'd like to go home with this event another $25,000. The crowd would like to see Bob Glidden. I think he's only won a couple of races this year, and that's an off season for him. It is Johnson away first. Johnson has the edge. Johnson wins it. Oh, even though Bob Glidden goes quicker. Glidden 7.16, Johnson 7.18. Off the starting line, Johnson was in Glidden's face, never looked back, never even saw him.
So the final is set in the Pro Stock division. A couple of veterans, 49-year-old Warren Johnson taking on 50-year-old Jerry Ekman. Back in the pit area, Al Hoffman working on his own car. That engine getting ready for his semifinal pairing with Chuck Etchels in the funny car division. Al Hoffman coming off an outstanding season. He is third in the overall point standings. And they're getting ready in the staging lanes right now for the Top Fuel semifinals. Ed McCullough's car rolling to the staging lanes. He will face Eddie Hill in that Final 4 matchup. Right now, though, it's Corey Mack and Danielle DePorter.
Corey McClanahan then, a fresh motor in that car, and problems with the DePorter car. That is the starter you see attached to the top pulley on the supercharger. It appears they cannot make that engine turn over. You see the little bottle there? That's full of gasoline. That primes the engine. They're trying to keep Danielle appraised of what the problem is. Corey McClanahan, the new engine in his car, sounding good. There is Paul Smith that owns the Danielle DePorter car. Once these engines kind of fail to fire, they can tend to get a lot of fuel in the cylinders. It can be dangerous to try to refire them. They can hydraulic. Oh, geez, all done. The car is moving backwards out of the staging area. It will be a single run for Corey Mack. But his enemy is the clock. He has got to at least run a time good enough for a national record backup, or Amato will be the champ. He doesn't do it. A 4.93 will not be a record or serve as a backup for a record later on. Joe Amato is officially now the champion. Don Garlitz?
Paul, I know this is very disappointing. Do you have any idea what might have happened when you went to start the engine?
Yeah, in the pits, our starter broke, and we borrowed a starter, and the drive deal didn't fit real good, and we tried to spin it to clean it and couldn't spin it enough without it jumping off, and then we tried to crank it again, and it tried to backfire. But she'll be back next year.
Great.
Thank you.
Disappointment for Paul Smith, crew chief, and the young lady you're looking at right now, Danielle DePorter. But don't forget, she won $10,000 for finishing in the top 10 of the season-long point standings. Also won another 10 for Rookie of the Year. Let's head down and join Steve with Corey Mack.
Well, that 4.93 tells us a couple of things. One, Corey Mack will not be the Winston champ. Joe Amato will be, but still you've got a final round to win.
Yeah, it's hard to be happy going to the final when we were really going for it that time. I'll tell you, Jimmy Prock, MacTac Racing, Quaker State, Mickey's Mag Polish. I mean, I'm telling you, these people have helped us all through the year. Without a sponsor, we're in the final. We're going to try to be number 2 in the world. I'll tell you, for an independent racer, that's not too shabby.
Absolutely not. He could pass Bernstein in the points. May have already. But some bad news, he has hurt another engine.
Now Now we are ready for our other semifinals of the top fuels. The 56-year-old from Wichita Falls, Texas, Eddie Hill in the yellow car, the far lane, going up against Ed McCullough.
The biggest occupational hazard driving a top fuel car, besides crashing, obviously, is a bad back. They leave the starting line at 5.5 Gs. That's astronaut stuff. Once that levels out, they hit a negative G of 4.5 with a parachute. And you'll notice that all of these drivers, even the older guys, are lean and fit. They've got to be. Ed McCullough in the near line, who has his own personal trainer. That's how important fitness is to him. Eddie Hill trying to back up the all-time world record of 477. He needs a 4.82 to do it. Eddie Hill will go to the final round with another shot to set the record, because he didn't do it that time. 4.88 and 2.88. He sends McCullough home with a 5.01 at 2.94. Don Garlits is back at the starting line with the top fuel crew chief of the year, Fuzzy Carter.
Well, Fuzzy ain't backed up that record yet, but you're in the final, and that's for the money.
Yeah, the air's going to get a little cooler, and we ought to be able to really step on it this time. We've just been conservative all day with it. My guys been working hard, and we just been trying to keep her running. Thanks.
Relief for Fuzzy Carter. And the final is set now for the top fuel division. Corey Mack from Anaheim, California. The 29-year-old Corey McFunnifan taking on the veteran from Wichita Falls, Texas, Eddie Hill. And Eddie will have the lane choice as we'll return to Pomona, California. Welcome back once again as we continue from the Winston finals in Pomona, California. Joel Myers along with Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlits. And we're down to the final for the funny cars. It's Freddie Neely taking on Cruz Pedregon.
And there is Larry Miner that owns the Cruz Pedregon car and the Ed McCullough car. But they're in tough. They've lost lane choice to the #1 qualifier, Freddie Neely. He's not reading their press clippings right now. Freddie Neely wants to win his first ever NHRA national event. And this Dick Brown Motorsports machine, the car is absolutely flying. Freddie really has more hardcore driving experience than Cruz Pedregon. Not taking anything away from Cruz. He's the champ. This could be very, very interesting. That tough young guy from Atlanta. Oh, and Pedregon. Too much power too soon. Freddie Neely breaks something just before the finish line on his winning effort, and that slows the car dramatically to a 5.36 at 222 miles an hour. Pedregon's crew chief Larry Meyer is with Don.
Well, Larry, you have any idea what might have happened?
Yeah, we blistered our tires real bad on the run before. We had to put a brand new set on. We was worried about it. The way it goes.
You're the Winston champion, ain't you?
That's all that counts, right? Thanks.
Disappointment today, but as mentioned, an outstanding year for Pedregon and his entire crew. We'll look back now at the problems for Freddie Neely. There you see it looked like the supercharger backfired halfway through the race. Let's find out with Steve at the far end.
You've got a hurt piece here.
Yeah, but we got some stuff back in the trailer. We'll get it fixed. We'll be back, Steve.
Okay, right now they can't even get the body up on this car because apparently the blower let go and has broken the latch in the body. So there's a lot of work to be done on this car.
Plenty of work and getting ready for the finals just a few minutes away. We go with the other semifinal now in the funny car division. The veterans we were talking about earlier, Chuck Etchels and Al Hoffman.
Now, Al Hoffman has been running the same engine all weekend. Not so Corey Mack. Here's a report from Don Garlits.
Steve, I'm in Corey Mack's pit, and the scene is exactly the same as it was around before. They have exploded another engine. The team is working very hard. They have installed a new silver bullet in the car, preparing it for the finals. Winning this race is very important to this team. Even though they have no chance at winning the Winston Championship, they would sure like to win the Winston Finals. It would be such a boost for this team starting off the '93 season with this win under their belt.
Corey Mack is driving a single-shot rifle. Takes a new bullet every round, and that's expensive.
That's Helen Hoffman helping out her husband, Al. He is in the near lane, the far lane with lane choice, and he has taken that lane like everybody else that's had lane choice. It's Chuck Etchels.
But this late in the afternoon, I don't think there's any difference in the lanes. There's no edge to either driver or crew chief. This could be certainly the most equal, if not the best race of the day in the funny car category. You're on board with Al Hoffman. Oh, and look to the left. There's Etchels. And Etchels stays there to the finish line. Maynard Yates' crew chief says, yes. 5.16 at 280 miles an hour for Etchels. Hoffman leaves with a 5.22. Let's go to Don.
My word, 5:16. You could go into the top fuel.
Well, I was afraid that Tommy's car's been running real good. I felt we had to run a mid-teen in the semis here. The sun's going down, the track's better. It should be a hell of a final.
So the final is set now in the funny cars as well. It'll be Etchells going up against Freddie Neely. The backdrop, a spectacular one. The San Gabriel Mountains. Etchells will have the lane choice with the quicker ET. And the funny car champion, well, that has been determined already, even though Cruz Pedregon is not in the final. He won the season-long championship and accepting the congratulations grandstand here in Pomona, California. Set on the Winston finals in Southern California. Let's join Steve now in the pit area with Freddie Neely.
We told you about the body problem at the far end. Here you see the repairs underway in the Freddie Neely pit. The blower boom was such a concussion, it ruined a lot of the steel frame that is the integrity of these bodies. He's got a lot of volunteers, about a half a dozen guys doing glass work and the welding as we showed you. But that is not Freddie Neely's only problem. I asked him, what did you hurt? He said, everything, naturally. There's a brand new motor going in this car. There's the engine that's hurt. It is not raceable. It's repairable, but not on this afternoon. So there's a giant hole right here in the chassis where a new aluminum motor will come out of that trailer and fill it, hopefully in time to get to the starting line. With the sun falling fast, NHRA is pushing these drivers hard to get to the staging lanes. For Freddie Neely, we cross our fingers.
And we head over from Freddie Neely's pit area now to that of Corey McLenithan's. And, well, they look like everything's under control. But there is still some anxious moments going on. We have documented the engine problems that Corey Mack, the young man from Anaheim, California, has had today. Let's go to the Pro Stock Finals now. They are just about ready. Warren Johnson and Jerry Ekman.
And it's just about dark. On paper, Warren Johnson, the newly crowned champ, has got the rate as a favorite. His 7:18 versus Ekman's 7:23 from the round before. Jerry Ekman, though, won the Winter Nationals. He'd like to make it a clean sweep here at Pomona. It is Oldsmobile over on the far side. Pontiac in the near lane. Two of the greats in the 90s in Pro Stock. Three stage. Warren Johnson is in. Ekman taking his time. Finally, he's in. Oh, and Ekman, a foul start. It wasn't even close. He red-lighted by 0.2 of a second. Warren Johnson, low elapsed time of the entire Winston finals for Pro Stock. 7:12 at 193 miles an hour. Let's go to Don.
What a win, Greg. And I bet when you looked at that scoreboard and saw that 7:12, you couldn't believe it.
That was pretty stout right there. It's the best way to finish out just a fantastic year. Everything's gone so well for us this year. And it's just, you want to go out in style. You don't want to go out backing it down. You got to go for it. And it put it all together on that last run. We've just got a fantastic team right from the top on down. And everyone knows how sharp Warren is, and Kurt Johnson, Warren's son. It goes right on down. Robert Gordon and Dave Colbert and Pat Barrett. Everybody's just fantastic. It's just a total team effort, Don. Total team effort.
Well, congratulations from all of us at NHRA and NBC to you.
Thank you very much, Don.
Let's go down to the finish line now with Steve and the Pro Stock champion.
Well, Warren Johnson just tied up the whole season in a pretty little bow, 7:12.
Unbelievable. I thought it'd get a little bit better than we had all day, but I didn't think it was going to be that good.
Ekman just barely had to take a shot at you, I guess.
Well, they had a little bit of problem the round before, and they knew we had maybe a slight performance advantage, but I think they honestly felt we had a better lane since we had lane choice, and he took a shot at it, and unfortunately, Jerry lost.
This was the year of your racing life.
Well, so far, so good. It's a good start.
A good start on next year. That's how that man thinks.
Steve, you were right on target. It was a dominating year for Warren Johnson. He won it, and he won 8 races overall this year. We get ready now for the Top Fuel Finals. Corey McLenithan, the hometown favorite, taking on Eddie Hill.
If Corey can win here, he will pass Kenny Bernstein and move into the second spot in the Winston points. That is worth $40,000. If Eddie Hill can run 482 or better, he'll back up his 477, and that is worth a new NHRA national record. But you know what? That record doesn't pay anything as far as Eddie Hill's concerned. There's a couple hundred points, but it won't have any movement for him within the standings. So Eddie Hill, he just loves to make history. The Texan on the far line, you can barely see, but watch the nitro. Oh, and Eddie Hill has red-lighted. There's still a pair of rocket ships down the quarter mile, but Corey Mack destroys another engine to win the Winston Finals. 493 to Eddie Hill's 484. but that is negated by leaving the starting line too soon. You know, I think at night you see that yellow so much more clearer than Eddie Hill, who never redlined. He's late occasionally, but he never gambled. Came up with a red eye. Corey Mack, the champ.
And from another angle close to the finish line, you can see that engine blowing right there for Corey McClenathan. That has been the story, but it did not stop McClenathan from winning the championship today at the Winston Finals. Let's head down to the finish line now and join Steve and the champ.
Well, for Corey Mack, this was a win at any cost kind of a day, because you hurt some parts, but we're talking great.
That's what matters, I'll tell you. This time I saw that red light out of the corner of my eye and I left. But I'll tell you, my crew, they deserve all the credit. My parents, Quaker State, everybody that's helped us this year. And we haven't had a big sponsor. I just want to tell you guys thank you. I love the crowd, everybody here. Thank you very much. And I hope to be back next year with a big sponsor.
I cannot add a single word to that.
So Corey McClenathan with that victory, as Steve mentioned. Now he moves ahead of Kenny Bernstein in the final season-long standings and picks up an extra $40,000. And don't forget, at the same time, Eddie Hill, with his performance today, finishing fourth, he makes some extra money, moving ahead of Ed McCullough. Right now, you're looking to the pit area of Freddie Neely. They're working on that body where he had a problem with his latch after the semifinal run. Be right back with his finals matchup against Chuck Etchells. California native, and we head to the starting line once again. Chuck Etchells and Freddie Neely ready to go. The darkness is upon us. It's the Funny Car Finals.
This is the last race of the entire 1992 NHRA season, and the moon is out. This is the darkest I've ever seen a national event final run under, but the drivers were very agreeable to this. With these nitro cars, they kind of carry their own light along with them. The glow from the nitro flames out of the exhaust pipes. That car of Chuck Etchells, solid machine. Hasn't hurt a part all day. Runs right in the 5 teams with consistency. Freddie Neely, I'm not sure what's under him. He's not sure what's under him. All that matters is he's here to race to try to win his first ever NHRA national event. Neely has problems. Etchells rockets down the racetrack and disappears into the darkness as the Winston chap. Another sensational 5.16 elapsed time for Chuck Etchells. An awesome performance. Don Garlitz.
Well, Maynard, it's been a long time since I've seen a smoother tune-up on a funny car all day long. You are to be congratulated.
Well, thanks a lot, Big. We had to work with the track conditions a little bit, and the atmospheric conditions were changing as the day got into the evening here. And I was hoping to run a 16, 15, 14, somewhere in there, you know, and if he ran better, he'd have won. Thank you.
Let's take a look back at the starting line and the difference in the race. As Etchells got off cleanly in the far lane, but you can see right away at the beginning, it was over for Freddie Neely. But a valiant effort for Neely just the same. And let's head down to the finish line now with Steve.
Chuck, I think all of your night driving experience came in very handy here at Pomona.
I'm not sure about that, Steve. I couldn't see very good. Usually you can see at night. The car was running pretty good. I didn't see Freddie and just struggled to try and find the finish line. We found it. You know, what a great deal coming out here to Pomona and winning this deal. Our sponsors, I got to mention them. You know, last time this year, nobody beats the Wiz, Super Winch, Kendall, Mothers, Snap-on, Mopar Performance. Thanks a lot.
A departing 5.16 shot. Perfect.
It's the quickest I ever run in that kind of darkness.
And I think he serves notice on Cruz Pedregon and John Force. Look out in 93.
Yeah, we're going to be after him.
And a final look at the point standings. You will be after him. Chuck Etchells with his victory today finishes in the top 5, but it was determined early today. Cruz Pedregon won the season-long series over John Force, Al Hoffman, and Del Worsham. That is going to do it for the Winston Finals from Pomona, California. For Big Daddy Don Garlitz and Steve Evans, I'm Joel Myers. Thank you for joining us.